George Washington was one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. He was also the first president of the United States. George Washington was commander-in-chief during the American Revolutionary War. But what if, in an alternate timeline, America's first president, George Washington, was assassinated? What would America look like today? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm Charlotte Dobrik. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and let us know in the comments below what topics you would like to see next. It is known that an assassination plot against George Washington was uncovered in 1776. A man named Thomas Hickey, a private in George Washington's guard, was arrested in 1776 for passing counterfeit money. But while he was in jail, Hickey admitted to another prisoner that he was involved in an assassination plot against the commander-in-chief. This is ironic because his primary job was to protect George Washington. If Hickey had not been caught with the counterfeit money, he would have continued with the plan to assassinate Washington, or perhaps someone else would have tried to assassinate him had Hickey's plan not gone through. After Hickey was hanged, no other attempts on Washington's life were made. But right now, we're discussing a hypothetical timeline in which George Washington was assassinated, and what would happen if he was. Would it mean that the outcome of the American Revolutionary War would have been different? Well, that would have entirely depended on when Washington was assassinated. If a successful assassination happened early on in the war, it is likely that the revolution would not have continued in the way that it did. If George Washington was killed, someone would have to take his place, but not without a struggle for power. Either Horatio Gates or Benedict Arnold would have assumed the role of commander-in-chief. Gates was known to be somewhat incompetent, so if he took over the revolution, it would have been disastrous. But Benedict Arnold could have reasonably continued the revolution without George Washington, and led the Patriots to victory. Benedict Arnold was a brave and skilled soldier who spent much of his own money on the war effort. He was bitter toward the Continental Congress because they denied him a promotion and did not properly credit him for his accomplishments. Because of this, he decided to change sides. Perhaps he would not have been a traitor if he had become the leader of the army, but still, his actions make us question the outcome of the war, had he been the leader. If George Washington were killed later on down the line, after Arnold had switched sides, he could have been succeeded by Nathaniel Greene, who was Washington's most gifted and dependable officer. Greene could have easily led the Continental Army to victory without George Washington included in the equation. But George Washington was a leader, not necessarily valued for his military efforts. His leadership was necessary to set up a US presidency. Washington was not the president until 1789, so if he died before that, he would not have become America's first president. Without George Washington, the entire history of America, and perhaps even its system of government, would be entirely different. He didn't want to be president, but accepted the job and served for 2 terms before stepping down, in order to set the precedents for future presidents. The United States was the first country to have a presidential system of government. The presidential system had failed many times, almost always ending up as a dictatorship. Without George Washington, the US might not even have a president as its leader today. Perhaps Arnold would have taken power, Aaron Burr, or even Alexander Hamilton. Any of those men might have dubbed themselves King of America. George Washington governed strictly according to the Constitution, setting the tone and code of conduct for all future US presidents, in which any abuse of power would lead to opposition by the people and by their representatives in the Congress. And lastly, if George Washington did not end up being America's first president, Washington, D.C. might be called something else. Mount Rushmore would probably not include his face, and neither would the $1 bill. Many of his major accomplishments would not exist to this day. He issued the Proclamation of Neutrality in 1793, as well as the Jay Treaty, which helped make peace with Great Britain. He kept a young America out of internal struggles, so its central government could increase in strength. Without George Washington, America would not be the country it is today. How do you think America, or even the world, would be different if George Washington was assassinated? Let us know in the comments below. Congratulations! You've made it to the end of this video. Well done! Just wanted to take a quick second to tell you that we at Life's Biggest Questions have set up a Patreon page where you can support this channel and also find out what we look like. Because of the nature of YouTube, many of our topics get demonetized. We do not think that YouTube should get to decide what you learn about on our channel. Definitely check out the Patreon page and make a small donation so that we can continue to bring you the best content possible. And if you want to continue watching Life's Biggest Questions, definitely check out our assassination series. What if JFK wasn't assassinated is right over here, as well as what if Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't assassinated. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in another video.